My views might mess up here a little bit, but we are Team Pleb Devs, and we are building a project called Devstr. So the team name is Pleb Devs, the project is Devstr. I'm Austin, this is Darren, and we are kind of taking an approach at solving this GitHub problem. Not really solving it, but really just getting it started. GitHub is very centralized. We all rely on it a ton. And it's kind of just owned by Microsoft right now, and no one's really doing anything about it. There's this Jack Dorsey bounty for a bunch of Bitcoin for someone to build GitHub on Nostr, but really what that's going to take is kind of re-implementing Git on Nostr and then building a front end for it. It's a lot of work. No one really seems to be doing it, and so our approach was just to build a platform that actually merges existing GitHub into the Nostr network, merges your GitHub profile with your Nostr profile, and then starts allowing you to stream events from your GitHub into the Nostr network. Okay, cool. Here's Devstr. Also, shout out to Kiki, who helped us with like designs and like all the direction, because we definitely didn't have time to do much front end stuff. So the big first problem was authentication. How do we tie the user's GitHub profile to their Nostr profile, and how do we do it very easily and very quickly? This can't have a lot of friction. So this is the first problem we solved, and so we're going to do that from scratch. It's going to ask me first to sign into my GitHub, and so I'll go ahead and do that. And so this will give us the authorization we need to basically create a proof later on that will tie the two accounts together. So first it's going to ask me if I have a Nostr account. I don't really need one. I can say no, and it'll securely generate these keys and then insecurely hand them off to the user. So don't use this. If we went next, it would basically verify my GitHub username and this new inpub and ask me if I want to link the two accounts together. But I'm going to go ahead and go back, and I'm going to log in because I do already have a Nostr account. And so I'm going to log in with Albi or Nos2x. I'm going to go next, and then my inpub is updated. This is my real inpub. And I'm going to click submit. And then I got this notification, just created. What is just? It's this note that lives on GitHub that is basically going to work as a proof for us. So if I go over to my GitHub here, we now see that a gist was posted for me verifying that this is my Nostr pub key. And so we generate from the GitHub data we plug into, we're able to generate a new profile for the user. And so we have all of the contributions here. We have, this is where you can zap the user, their LN address. We have recent GitHub activity here, different kinds of push events. I think these are mostly just push events now. And so eventually these would be the kinds of things we'd want to be constantly streaming into Nostr. And we also have recent repositories here, or just the active repositories that you're actively working on. So these are just simple mock-ups for how you can imagine you could just generate a builder profile for people. Oh yeah, and we've got this pie chart with our languages. This is definitely a pleb dev pie chart right here. And I can jump over to chat here. And this is the Devstr chat. So these are a series of GitHub events that we've already been posting out from the platform. They're still being posted out manually. And so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my profile, and I'm going to broadcast the Devstr repo here. And so this is going to ask me to sign this, and I just generated an event with this repo on it. And I can find the ID here, and I can go over to Damus, and hopefully this should have been sent. Oh, I'm also using Blaster, so let's go to post. Okay, cool. So this is a very basic, like kind of dumb data structure right now, but I want to start talking to other people to figure out how can we create these events on Nostr and then eventually start actually populating code, commits, issues, comments into these events and tying them together. So this is just like a very rough proof of concept. But in theory, you could zap my repo now. Okay, and then cool. So I guess that was kind of where we got to. This was like a bunch of these were top 3 problems and just a bunch of ideas we had for addressing these problems, just in our pleb dev way that we know how to do right now. So a lot of this had to do with just the risk of GitHub, which everyone understands, the centralization of it. The bad social experience of GitHub. This is really a missed opportunity. I want to be seeing what my friends are coding and commenting on it and zapping them for it. GitHub profiles could be a lot better. Your GitHub profile should be your evolving resume, your evolving builder profile if you're a developer. And there's all of these little things that can come into this, you know, subscribing to certain events on repos, discovering, finding code snippets, zapping all sorts of events, signing with multiple keys, PGP keys and Nostr keys. I want to display new kinds of data, streaks, code velocity, anything that can be created with GitHub events, you can imagine, just like visualizing this data. And so here's what we actually did. This is kind of like all the messy ideas we tried to rein in over the last day and a half, and here's what we actually did. Where we made an easy onboarding and auth experience connecting GitHub and Nostr. We built a front end that generates a maker profile and grabs relevant events from the user. And we broadcast simple MVP GitHub events on the Nostr network and create a global chat for it. What we didn't do is set up a Devstr relay. This is definitely going to be something required, so we failed on that. And then kind of the next thing to do would be create constant streaming GitHub events. And there would kind of be like a little more work along with a relay that would need to be done for that. So 2 weeks TM. Thank you.
So this is, once you've authed into GitHub, then it's going to pull all the information from the API and then, or like the public information that you want to show up, and then it's going to broadcast that out to Nostr relays. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so that basically means like you already have with this redundancy to your GitHub profile because that gets sent off to all these other relays, right?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, the data that the events that we're creating are still heavily reliant on GitHub, right? Like if GitHub, with these events I'm creating, if they, cancel me, like those links won't mean anything. So right, we need to get more of that data. The history does, right? So you can imagine this with issues, with conversations, with like the Bitcoin, backing up like all the Bitcoin comments and issues.
Yeah, because that was one of the, there was a conversation recently, they have this regularly, but on Bitcoin Core and trying to move away, and one of the issues that they have is, I mean, you would still have this issue here, but moving over the history of comments and conversations, which is important to the history of Bitcoin development. If you have even just the redundancy, makes it easier to move off if you need to, it seems to me. And so like that's a really good first step. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, but once you have this out there, you could be just a Nostr account that's now interacting with a GitHub account, even if you don't have all the other things in there, but you can now, like, you can zap obviously somebody that's on GitHub with that and probably comment on code. It wouldn't be that much more difficult, even though GitHub might not see it, you can now start to like be first step towards like moving away.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking, and I think like a platform like Devstr, which is open source. I mean, it can just kind of sit in the middle and get both of those sides of those events. And yeah, with like the GitHub thing, I just think we need to start getting these events out and making people store them. And also, I'm pro spamming Nostr, and so we just need to start doing that. And then like really good devs will probably build GitHub on Nostr. But this is what we have right now. So thanks y'all.